Hi, in this week's assignment we were asked to answer the questions in the beginning of videos week 8, 9, and 10. And the question for week 8 is describe the powerhouse and describe the bony landmarks of the pelvis and the hip. The powerhouse in Pilates is our core muscles, and this is the physical center of the body where all movement should proceed. And we should be working constantly through all of our movements in which our limbs should be able to move in a coordinated and connected manner when we're doing our Pilates movements. And core activation in the movements is also referred to as core stability. And this is the ability to keep our pelvis and our spine in a desired position while moving like other limbs of our body. And yeah, so the bony landmarks on the pelvis and the hip is the iliac crest. And this is the upper wing-like position of the hip bone. Some other bony landmarks of the pelvis and the hip is the anterior superior iliac crest, the ASIS. And then we also have the pubic symphysis, which is also, I think I said that right. It's also abbreviated as PS. And then we also, and that's the pubic forms the lower and front portion of each hip bone. And then I might mess up this word, but we also have the ischial tuberosity, and this is the very long bone in the lower and back portion of the hip bone. And then lastly, we have the greater trochanter. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. And then that's between the hollow sockets of the pelvis and the rounded top of the femur. Okay, and now for week 9, we were asked to describe the movements of the scapula. So the scapula slides on the rib cage with only the muscles connecting it to the spine, and the only true bony connection of the shoulder girdle to the axial skeleton is the sternoclavicular joint, and that's the small joint between the clavicle and the sternum. And then one of the movements of the scapula is the scapular elevation. And this involves lifting the scapula upwards towards your ears, just like that. And then we also have scapular abduction. And that's when the scapula is moved farther away from the spine. And then along with that, we of course have scapular adduction, and that's moving the scapula towards the spine. And then we also have an upward rotation. And this is when it's rotated so the outer portion of the scapula moves upward, and then we also have downward rotation. And that's obviously vice versa when the scapula moves in the opposite motion. Okay, and then for week 10, the question was, list the regions of the spine, top to bottom. What are the movements of the spine? And the spine is made up of 33 bones called the vertebrae. And then the regions of the spine are the cervical, the thoracic, the lumbar, the sacrum, and the coccyx. Might have said that wrong as well. And then the movements of the spine are flexion, and that can be seen as like a forward fold, as if I was going to touch my toes. And then we also have extension, so that could be, say I was in flexion and I was touching my toes, and then I wanted to do extension of the spine. I would either go straight back up into neutral position from touching my toes, or I would go farther back from neutral position. So I'd be leaning back. And then that can also be referred to as hyperextension, when I'm going farther back from the midline. And then we also have right and left lateral flexion, and that's the bending of the spine sideways, right and left. And additionally, we have right and left rotation, and that's rotating the upper trunk to the right or left. So those were all the questions. And then a couple things that I've been taking from the physical practice. One of my biggest challenges is the position when we're lying on our side. We're side lying, and then we are we're abducting our leg into the sky and pulsing. That it's just a challenge. Like, not only is it hard, but also to like not rotate my hips, I feel I have to be very intentional with it. But I will say that I think that I have been making progress compared to the first time I did that movement. But yeah, that's one of the big things that I've been taking away from the physical practice. Otherwise, it's been going good. I feel like I'm getting stronger. I especially notice my endurance when doing the pulse lunges is not, I don't feel fatigued as quick as I did in the past. Yeah, so those are my takeaways. Thank you.